Welcome to Rico 12. I'm Justin B., your host, and a child of an all-powerful and perfectly loving God, and an addict living in the miracle of recovery one day at a time. Welcome to the first of the Saturday Rico 12 meetings. Hooray! Beginning today and continuing for the foreseeable future, the weekly Rico 12 meeting, which has been held on Fridays for the last 6+ years, or about 6 years, not quite 6+ years, will be held on Saturdays at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. UK time, and as I just learned, 11 p.m. India. Excited to have you all here. We are happy to be in this new time slot. Spread the word. Rico 12 is an open to all addictions and afflictions organization dedicated to exploring the common threads of the differing manifestations of alcoholism. We're sharing tools and offering hope from those walking a similar path. So, whether your thing is alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, food, whatever, you are home here. We gather from diverse backgrounds, faiths, and locations to learn from and support one another. Our speakers come from various fellowships and experiences, demonstrating the universal principles of recovery. Rico 12 is not allied with or affiliated with any specific 12-step fellowship. This is Rico 12 speaker meeting number 437. Thank you for joining us live or in the recording later. Today's speaker is Paulina, a first-time Rico 12 speaker, and she's joining us, and I'm super excited to have her here. She'll be speaking on a topic that she's entitled, What is God Love in Relationships? I look forward to diving into this conversation here in a few minutes, but just a couple of quick announcements. Since this is our first Saturday meeting, I want to reiterate a couple of things about about our Afro-Euro meeting that is still held on Fridays. It's recently moved to a new time, noon UK time on Fridays, which makes it 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. South Africa and Israel time. Lisa S. does a great job in getting great speakers at this time. It makes it more available to people in other time zones that aren't just, I don't want it. It's not just a North America type thing. This is a worldwide fellowship, a worldwide problem that we all get to work through with our higher power. Rico 12 also offers a variety of recovery resources, which includes other podcasts, social media communities. To explore more, visit our website. I'll put these things in the chat so that you can link to them if you would like. Rico 12 is self-supporting, and your contributions really help us continue this message. For information on how to donate, how to support, I'll put that in the chat also, but you can go to rico12.com/support and join in and becoming a spearhead, and financially and word of mouth support is really, really appreciated. All right. Each week we receive light and inspiration from our speakers. Their experience brings hope, meaning, worth, and growth to us as listeners. Now I'm going to welcome today's speaker, Paulina. Here's a little bit about Paulina. She identifies as being addicted to self, focusing not on the behaviors, as they are but a symptom, but instead living from unselfish love, which is her higher power. This includes unlearning codependent behaviors. She defines her recovery as eternally spiritually detoxing from earthly programming and living in pure bliss. Souls are sent to earth to evolve by practicing, like bumper cars with different people and situations. This is what God has revealed to her. Take it away, Paulina. The floor is yours.
Thank you all so much for being in this meeting and listening to the recording. I'm just excited and nervous is just there. This is really such an honor. Thank you, Justin. I'm so grateful to be part of this. My name is Paulina, and I'm here to talk about how I escaped the misery of living in old beliefs and thoughts. Now I live in pure love. That doesn't mean that I always act that way, but it sure is closer to it than it ever was before. Pure love is my higher power, and it is everything altogether of pure love I call the universe. Making this change has allowed me to have loving, meaningful relationships. I hope in describing the changes that I've made in my life based on God and the big book, I can show the power of both in my life. And what a radical change this has been. When I say quotes from the book, they refer to the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book. Everything I share today applies to all afflictions and addictions. This program and all of you are truly the loves of my life. It's like coming home to the biggest family I'll ever get, who love me enough to remind me to come back and relax, take it easy, while also being a really awesome mirror to show me where I get off track, right? So I can come back to pure love. My God Squad challenges me to grow and reminds me of how exhausting it is to live in ego. I mean, where else can you receive that kind of love in this world? The people are going to be so blunt and open with you like that, and for free nonetheless. Wow, only here at home. Equally, I get to do that for others, and that's priceless. Because every time that service is done, it's a mutual exchange of love. And that's incredible. Those are miracles. So my pre-recovery life, it was like baffling to me why I couldn't have really deep, meaningful, emotional relationships with people. I was confused. It wasn't sticking. I wanted to belong and wanted to be loved. And I wanted to show the other people in this, right, in this other life that, like, they're already there. Like, I got you. They did belong. So do I. We're all well loved. But I spent time trying to figure it out in my head. And I've learned in this program how really simple it is to have loving relationships. You just show up unattached to anything that happens while being unabashedly loving to everything. Just let God drive and let the miracles happen that you didn't even see coming, that you can't even with a finite brain begin to imagine. That is how I see it for me. So questions like, how did this happen and how did I get here, are questions I've asked myself repeatedly, both from a place of God, such as on inventory, which translates to, what was my fault? Column 4. And then ego, like, how did I get here? Why is my life such a mess? I don't want to go back ever to how that was. And I love being here now. And here's how I got here. It's crucial to notice first, when I ask that question, what place am I starting from? To help me with this, I use the acronym in the big book of HOW: honesty, openness, and willingness, which are required to work this program, say the book. If I'm not starting from the how in a God way, I will keep myself spinning in circles and saying, why am I getting dizzy? Now, change those words to whatever delusion you have, and my sponsor will say something back like, honey, just stop spinning. And in the past, I've been like, I don't know how to stop spinning. And she looks at me like I've lost my mind because she's right. I've gone far away. Yes. And that's what I and others who come to me who sound in ego sound like in delusion. It doesn't make sense because it's not love. But the beauty of love, right, is that I get to be there for others and they get to be there for me when God allows, in a way to untangle these knots and help us come back to love, because love is flowing. It feels so real when I'm in delusion, right? Like I start spinning in the middle of the room and I'm like, woo, wow, things are really, everything's moving in the room. Like the big book says, it's that magnifying magical mind that is seemingly convincing. There is really nothing to do. It's just to slow down and breathe. That's it. But yet my brain will tell me all kinds of stories about what actually needs to be done for me to stop, to be able to breathe before I can do that, when there's nothing to do. It's just slowing down. That's what makes my jaw drop every time I reflect on this program. The simplicity. It's literally just as simple as love. It's listening to the greater calling. What does true love say about you and others in the moment? The book suggests asking God, how do you want me to be? The answer is always some version of peaceful and loving, period. Anything else, right, when we start doing, pulls us away from the greater calling. So it's just starting with being is what helps me in my recovery. All I have to do is look inside of myself and connect with that place of peace and love inside. There's actually nothing to learn, just the opposite. I feel like that's a lot what I hear from sponsees coming in. They're like, "Huh, but there's so much to learn." And I'm like, but that's what's been bogging you down in your life. It's time to unlearn. This is a program of subtraction, not addition. It sounds so simple, right? It really is. But here's the trade-off, right? There is a price to pay, says the book. It's the destruction of self, right? You see, I'm addicted to my brain. I call it ego, self, character defects. And some of these delusions, they're just a few to name. is that knowledge is what's going to help us out of our problems. That what I did in the past that worked in the past is going to work again, right? Yesterday's spiritual experience is over. It's not today. And I should follow love based on what I think is love, right? And thinking is the danger zone. That's when everything in my life starts to fall apart in my head and then usually leads me to act out to moving more in that direction. Ironic, right? That when we talk about living in anger or fear, it actually, when we're living in it, moves us towards what we don't want to happen. That is delusional. That's spinning over and over again and someone telling you to stop spinning and you saying you can't. It's the same version of that. My brain tells me about how people, places, and events should go that are not the truth. It's not about the facts, right? Sometimes it's about past stuff or future stuff. Like nothing's happening. Living there does not help loving anyone. In fact, it's dishonoring God's plan and disrespecting other people's right to choose and free will. I use the book's term of my own little selfish little plans and designs. Those are everything in my brain, right? I want more time with people the way I want it. Love should look the way I want it to. I should be able to have sugar the way I want it to be because, I eat dinner pretty clean. It's not what my body tells me. It's not what pure love says. It's not based on facts. I had to be properly armed with the facts, says the book, about myself to truly live in emotional sobriety. That's pure love. And this is what led me to 12 step. Right before I entered recovery, I was quite physically sick. No one could figure out what was going on. Surely sugar wasn't helping, even though I was eating less sugar because I felt sick, not because of what pure love wanted me to do. It was still there. I was trying to control my own medical treatment, seeing doctors that were doing similar testing and telling them how I didn't want the medications they were offering. I was puzzled why no one could figure this out. Truthfully, I was crying and panicking. My husband and I were in serious talks about getting divorced. He's such a sweet guy. He truly does love me. He understands pure love. And yet I felt so alone, right? Because I scared off people in my controlling them. And my husband was like, what, we can't do this together like this. And so badly wanted that loving, real Paulina, which he saw. And I saw his real soulful self, and we could not sing our songs together. Ironically, today, he made a Lego set of the Eiffel Tower. And when we made our little figs, you can make your own little mini figs. What felt just spiritually right was we ended up both with guitars. And guitars are symbolic for singing our soul songs together when I looked it up. And I was like, of course it is. Because God shows up in millions of ways. I couldn't figure out really why we couldn't navigate together peacefully. My focus, of course, was that my husband was the issue. It couldn't be me. Not the loving, sweet Paulina of me. That was one of my delusions. The big book is spot on when it says people have hundreds of forms of delusions and I am the creator of my problems. But we usually don't think so, says the book. Oh boy, if there was a stage direction, it would say act sarcastic. And that is so true. In saying that, I always believed in God, by the way, from a young age. And I followed God to an extent, which is why my life actually was as good as it was. It's because God did have some control. I have a beautiful home, a wonderful grounding dog, a husband who really loves me and gratefully still does, a successful career, and actually good money was coming in, right? God will only give you the miracles as much as you will fully give control to God. I see this now to be true. It all looks so good on paper, right? Like you might see someone's resume like that and be like, oh man, like Paulina's life must be awesome. And I had a bit of joy in my life and people could actually pick up that flow. I had that white light of love coming out and that first connection was amazing with people. It would be so random, like at the gas station or wherever, and we would connect. But right, here's the ego side of it. I was still following my brain blindly in quite a few old thoughts, beliefs. So here's what happened as a result. I would start people pleasing once you get to know them, right? Because then it started touching upon my own ego stuff. And I wouldn't own up to when I was an ego. And I would have got empathy truly, right? I would be there with people. I love serving. But then I would also bleed empathy from ego. Like I'd be crying over others' pain in my personal life. And that's not helpful. It's still ego. It's still believing that love has to look that way. It's not. God takes care of us and wants us to take care of ourselves as much as we take care of other people. So it pushed people away. I used to feel so rejected and fall into those stories, right? About like people didn't want to be with me because I'm a bad person, or maybe I'm not supposed to serve this way. Like I was so confused. Well, the truth of it is, people didn't want to be with me because who wants to be with someone who can't really connect with you and enjoy the time together? Differences aside or not, who wants to hang out with someone who isn't really authentic, aka God inspired? Sometimes those are the people in ego themselves, right? Because if we live in ego, my observation in this life has been we attract other people in ego. My sponsor actually recently mailed me a sticker that said, people will only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. Wow. What I've observed in the human experience is that people want to share magical moments with others deep down inside. But until they do the work on themselves, they're going to attract exactly where they are. And that is not a new understanding for me, but it hits me spiritually different now, being on the inside of this program. And truthfully, it's not fun, like the actor on page 60 in the big book, that the focus is just on one person and they're not even in the moment. They're focusing on what they can't control, when they think they can, right? Like, how fun is that to be with someone? How loving and authentic would you want to be with someone that's just like somewhere else? It's pointless in a sense, other than it's a mirror for me of what it looks like when I show up that way. And I have stepped out of relationships like that in the past where ego was so big in the other person that there was little connection. But again, I'm not focusing on the other person. My ego role was I allowed that person into my life. That was still on me. Funny, I can see others' egos so beautifully and how spiritually blind I can be about myself. Full on poison to the soul and others living in ego. Nothing about it ever comes that is solid and loving. Truly. Today, I actually look back with gratitude that people stopped connecting with me because it prevented me from hurting the person again. That's the complete opposite of why I'm here. I also carry those things that I've done on my soul, like what a bird does to a car window, if you get my gist. My spiritual glass cleaner and paper towels, known as my program in God, are the only ways to reduce how much of my own selfishness actually shows up in relationships. Look, I'm well aware I will never fully be able to act 100% just in pure love in this life. That doesn't mean I'm not full of pure love. And it's an evolution, and that's okay, as long as we're practicing sitting quietly, just letting thoughts and feelings go by, aka meditation, as well as doing inventory, is what I've learned in the book. In my marriage, there was a lot of conflict. On my first round of step 4, I remember crying with my sponsor on the phone saying, "Oh my God, I heard another child of God. What did I do?" To this day, this still brings this up for me. And the book says we keep going back and reviewing inventory, and that keeps me humble. I make living amends every day to my husband, not with words, but with actions on his love language. I'm taking ownership of my role far more than I ever have before. And I'm not focusing on how he or anyone delivers the message, but rather what is the message. So I can love and connect with him on his love language. That is to me what I call the mirror of love. That is a reflection of the pure universe. God gave me such an amazing guy. He's so different with me than earth stuff. This is the great part, right? So if you were like look up like our YouTube or whatever, he watches like police cams and he watches stuff on like Apple tech stuff. And I'm watching stuff about like dogs comforting people and looking at like where to get like 1940s clothing. And that's hilarious that we're so different. And yet with such limited human words that I have, because the brain is finite, I can say that we are so spiritually connected. And in the way of communication, I could talk all day about all the things that happened and what I'm spiritually waking up to and what that means and where I'm still in ego when my sponsor points it out and whatever else. But that's not this dude. And that's okay, because it's not about what I want it to be. That's the actor. His love language isn't words. And that's one way I failed to live the verb of love, which was previously trying to control him by asking him repeatedly to tell me in words. That's so selfish. So selfish. Also know that in my past, and sometimes present, let's be humble and real here, behaviors also sent the message that he doesn't get a voice. You know why? Because I was trying to control his voice. And that's never, ever okay. Page 120 says, we never, never try to arrange a man's life. And if you look at page 88 in the book, it says, we do not tire so easily, for we are not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. Oh my gosh, was I exhausted? Oh my gosh, and talk about when you have medical stuff, you can't tell me that medical stuff isn't spiritually based. At least that's been my experience. That misalignment comes out, we know, mentally and physically. That's in the book. And how ridiculous it is to try to control what I can't, which is everything. It's like repeatedly yelling at a blue wall that it's not blue enough, and then getting resentful it's not changing its color. Is that really how I want to spend my time? No, not on this big, beautiful blue earth ball that I get to hang out with for a while. All that to say, even if my husband is an ego, it's actually still irrelevant to my choice to live in pure love or ego. So today, I get on his love language, not only because it's the loving thing to do for us, but it's also God's way of saying, honey, be quiet. Stillness, emptying myself out, and patience are the definition of abundance in love. Even when others are in ego, they still bring us to God. Notice for a moment in your life where you say something or someone, anything other than your own decision to follow God or ego becomes the focus. This, I realized for me, is where growing stops and spiritual death, selfishness, starts to eat me alive. And that is written throughout the book, right? We must be rid of the selfishness or it will kill us. My sponsor is not only my sponsor. That's just a finite word. She's my spiritual mentor. She's my spiritual twin, and truly the best girlfriend I've ever had. She has shown me, the most of anyone in my life, how to live the verb of love in ways that I was blocked from. She is the human form reason of why I am God-driven. Yes, it's my choice to choose God over ego. I get that. But she gets me to stop spinning when I'm dizzy myself in ego again and again and again. Truly, truly. She's helped me through my first round of steps and beyond repeatedly. She never gave up on me. Even when I was defensive, even when I was like, I don't know, I don't think I'm worthy of this. Talk about the character defect of self-loathing. Tell me that's not the most pure love you'll ever see. She is love. I cannot put into words how she understands me, how alike we are in ego and in love, and how parallel our journeys are. This is why God put us together. If I didn't have the humility, honesty, openness, and willingness to stop my behaviors, right, the ones of living in ego, I wouldn't have any of these precious gifts. Not her, not my husband, maybe not my dog, not any of you, that's for certain. You see, I had to cease fighting is what the book said. I had to cease fighting myself, others, God. And that's exactly what the big book taught me in a way that I had some awareness of, but couldn't fully live in. And since I fired the lawyer and hired God in step 3, like legit things have only gotten better exponentially. I got some answers to my health problems. People are showing up, asking for my feedback and also wanting to be friends. I encourage everyone to do the steps with a sponsor now, following the book. And if you're blessed enough to get someone like my cherished Miss Love, know that she's worth more than all the stars in the sky and hold on to her for dear life. Why did things change so much in my life? Because I became a God-inspired agent. And I stopped trying to get anything out of anyone, which is true for the most part now. Still an ego sometimes. I stopped trying to tell Western medicine doctors that they weren't listening and that they needed to do different testing. I stopped getting into the space of, I don't want your toxic medications. Instead, what I did was I let go and let them be them and let the system be the system, which you think I was going to take down the medical system? Hello, that's pretty arrogant. Yeah, I went to God and was like, God, my sponsor is telling me that I'm out of control with this medical stuff. I'm done. Help me, because I don't know if I'm even going to be alive for that much longer because the symptoms were pretty rough. And God said, okay, you're done now. Cool. Now you're going to be quiet. And here's what you're going to do. And amazingly enough, it's basically no prescription medication. I got my answers. And it's not to say that more isn't unfolding. It doesn't mean that the pain's all gone. There's still stuff. Money's coming in less because I'm working less right now to take care of myself, and God's putting me in a different role to serve. And that's okay. This is my transition space from finite thinking to serving in an infinite way the best that I can. I don't stress over medical stuff nearly as much as I did, which helps healing, by the way, right? Because when you get all into ego, it's actually stressing out your body. It's not helping anything. Love is being able to take my story and share it with all of you who are willing to listen. Everything that I've been through in my life, stuff from childhood, stuff from right before recovery, it doesn't matter when, all the stuff, right? Whether I wanted it or not, really, it was all worth it, because at the end of the day, for all I know, it might help someone. And isn't that amazing? And again, the whole thing is we're just practicing and coming back to God. Right? We're not preaching. We're not saying you need to be spiritually perfect. It's just spiritual progress is all the book suggests. And remember how I mentioned how I only cut back on a lot of sugar initially because I was sick, and then I came to 12-step trying to figure out how to change my husband. Well, that's also what the book says. People have to be pretty badly mangled before they really commence to solve their problems. And yeah, when you're about to get divorced, lose a bunch of money, your health's in the tank. How much longer can you go? Not possible, right? I got to the point where even though I was still delusional and I had to rewrite, I think, my first round of step 4 3 times because my sponsor was like, you're still talking through your ego in the way of what you think you need, in the way of soulfulness kind of thing, which was hilarious. I already soulfully knew that I, not my husband, had to take action. Otherwise, I would continue to be miserable. But I held on to the story, and that's part of what kept me miserable. One of my favorite big book quotes, which is great also for newcomers if you're listening, we believe there is no middle of the road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible. And if we had passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid, we had but two alternatives. And here's where I was. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could. And the other, to accept spiritual help. This we did because we honestly wanted to and were willing to make the effort. And I did. I still get goosebumps from that quote because it brings me back to that time of, whoa, I have no other options here. And thank God, because when God closes all the doors, God's telling you there's only one left. Jump. Don't go through the door. Jump. It's typical that we as people get programmed with different stuff, right? What's okay to eat, where, what'll make our parents proud of us, how to express ourselves, all that. But see, that's only part of the story. The bigger and more important part is that I believed a number of those things. And I locked myself in my own metaphoric cage, right? That one in my head. Ironically, right, in codependency, I looked to others to release me. But there was no one. And I just kept grasping for what I couldn't figure out. What was that flimsy reed initially we discovered ended up being like actually a really powerful God. Turns out I had the key. Yeah, talk about being in an escape room and then realizing you had the code the whole time. Oh boy. That was God and acceptance. That's literally what the book says is the key. I had it all along inside to use whenever I wanted to get out. It was all on me. One of my dearest sisters says at her meeting, and I love her, no one's coming to save you, Starseed. And she's 100% right. Everything in this life, really, it's not real. It's just a temporary playground to practice bumper cars. Like how spiritual the Wizard of Oz is, right? It was all just a dream. Auntie M and you were there. Just a yellow brick road. Time and things moving to follow with some good recovery people like Dorothy's friends she met along the way. And then, of course, for me, I love sparkly everything. So this is also my own bias. You get that pair of ruby red slippers. That's your big book. And yes, my big book cover is sparkly. So if you never see it, trust and believe. When the wizard gave Dorothy's friends what they thought they were missing, right? It was just the wizard, God, telling them, hello, wake up. No physical object in this life is going to wake us up. No amount of money. And whatever you did that led you here, didn't wake you up. You just realized that you were holding on to logs like me, right? That weren't working. And that's the gift. No partner, no amount of money, no sugar. I don't care what it is. It doesn't work.
We're good. Go ahead and close up. Go ahead, Paulina. Yeah.
So remember, it's all inside. Glinda telling Dorothy, Glinda's my sponsor, by the way, legit. You've had the power in you the whole time to go home because home is inside. Right? So remember, wherever you are, whatever it is, if you think it's hopeless or not, there's only one thing ever that you need. And that is to remember that pure love will always guide you. This program is pure love. Where service and bliss collide in this way of life creates an infinite amount of confetti known as true love. And you all have what you need inside. So thank you.
Got questions about addiction, recovery, or just life in general? Let's noodle it out together. Grab your big book, a pen, a highlighter, and a notepad, and join Nikki M and me, Justin B, on Rico 12 Noodle It Out with Nikki M. Each episode, we take real-life questions, ours, yours, and those from the recovery community, and dig deep into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to find real, practical solutions. So, if you're ready to do the work and apply the solution, tune in to Noodle It Out with Nikki M, streaming now on your favorite podcast platform. And thank you so much, Paulina. That was, I love your energy. It's 2 weeks in a row of this type of energy that we've had with our speakers, and I'm just so grateful to have this high that I've got here from this. I've written down several questions. I've received at least 1 or 2 questions from our live audience. A reminder to our live audience, if this is your first time in a live Rico 12 speaker meeting, if you have questions for Paulina, please type them in the chat. If you want to remain anonymous, in other words, if you don't want me to read your first name when I ask your question, just type in anonymous or direct message it to me, and we'll get to those questions. First question I have for you is this whole idea of, you're spinning around. Stop spinning. Stop spinning. What are some ways that you have learned that help you recognize, 1, that you're spinning, and 2, that help you stop when you recognize that you're spinning?
Thank you for the question. That's a really important one in my recovery. So one thing that I do is I pause and I use 2 acronyms that my sponsor taught me. So one is think. Is it true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind? And the necessary is where I get stuck in ego. And the other one are the absolutes of the big book. The purity, the unselfishness, right? The helpful, I throw in there helpful and honesty together, and love. If I cannot in all 9 of those say yes to all of them, you don't do it. And when I start trying to rationalize it in my little ego brain, what I've learned to do is pause and do nothing until God says. And if I'm still not sure and finding myself having a craving to act on something, right? Because cravings aren't just about a substance, it's about any action. One of the things that I do is actually reach out to my God Squad, including my sponsor, right? And for those that are awake and willing, yeah, they show up and let me know, like, let's really go through this. Nope, that's too many words. Stop. So as soon as I get into too many words, that's my poison.
No, that's good. And now this is a follow-up from one of our live audience members who wants to remain anonymous. But when that happens, when you're spinning and you're going through that, and it's just, but he's being such a jerk, but, the pain is too much, but this is too much. How do you even think to pause and go through those things?
So one of my mini Post-it notes mentally from God is, if you're focusing on anything other than yourself, imagine that a stapler is going through your lips. Pure and simple, right? Like when Will Smith said to Chris Rock, I'm not endorsing violence, but just when he said to him, get your wife's name out my mouth, yeah, your mouth, right? It's the same thing. The minute that I start saying my husband, my sponsor, whoever it is, I'm gone. It's so simple. We're so easy, right? This is what I see in the book and with my fellows and about me too. No different am I than anyone else in this world. We are so quick to say we are the good ones and they are the ones that have the issue because they're not the right kind of addict, because they did that thing to me. The truth of it is, right, and this is what the big book talks about, if we look back, we did something, think of the butterfly effect, we did something somewhere that put us in this position today. So if you're humble enough to just imagine that stapler going through your lips and just to pause, you're already in a really good place. That's already God telling you to be still.
Good. I love that, Paulina. Great imagery, too. Stapler on your lips. Love it. All right. So next question, I'm going to combine one of my questions with one from an anonymous attendee here. The anonymous attendee says, hey, discuss a time when everything wasn't cupcakes and roses. And where I want to go from this, you talked about this being a program of subtraction, not addition. What are some of the things that some of the non-cupcakes and roses things that you had to subtract out of your life so that things could become maybe a little bit more regularly cupcakes and roses?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing. They're not sugar cupcakes anymore. For me, as a sugar addicted individual. So what are the things I had to cut out? This is how I teach it to my sponsees. You're not learning anything, you're unlearning. So everything that you think and believe that is not fact, like in other words, if it's not happening to you right now, it's not a fact. Right? Put it all in one big clear plastic bag, garbage bag, like a massive one. Hand it over to God completely. And then when stuff flows through, once you give it to God, you're just letting God flush you out. Right? It's just like if you get sick and you need to take medication, it takes time for the stuff to flow through. So for me, what I had to let go of is literally everything I've ever learned. And let me tell you, my hardest thing to break through, because I wanted to hold on so tightly, right, were things like knowledge and the concept of trauma. When trauma and knowledge are identity, anything that you think is your identity, being Caucasian, that, for me was vegan too, right? My body is not vegan aligned. I've learned that in this course. It's not. And it's not saying right or wrong. It's just, if I take off all those labels, what am I left with? I'm God's child. God made my body, not me. So let me listen to what is being said right now. And whenever thoughts and feelings come through, just to sit quietly and let God flush. Because the minute that I start panicking, which it still happens, panic or fear or whatever it is, if I start clinging to it, I'm taking it back. And God's like, okay, I love you enough that you can continue to do it. That's fine. But it just ends up me being miserable. So sugar, codependency, speeding on the highways in my state, and it is a very densely populated state. When my husband shows up in reaction, which most of the time my first thought is, I didn't do anything. There he goes again. No, you did something somewhere. Knock it off. Yeah, a whole bunch. Any behavior that is not God inspired has to go. It's like cleaning out your closet of old stuff to let God into the new one, right? Spirit of the sunlight. Got to let everything in.
Yeah, so interesting when you shared that you had to unlearn things. The set aside prayer comes to mind really quickly in my mind. Help me set aside anything I think I know about everything. And you brought up this example of the vegan thing, that you knew this is the right way to be, but it didn't align with your body. The problem has to be him, her, the food. It has to be whatever the problem has to be. I'm going to point out there the trauma that I've experienced in my life. That is the problem. What is it like when that mirror comes around and you say, oh, crap? That's not the problem. The problem's right here with me. What is that moment like for you? Hey, Spearheads. If you're looking to dive deeper into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with people who live the solution, then you won't want to miss Rico 12 Big Book Roundtable. Join David G., Nikki M., and me, the moderator Justin B., 3 recovered addicts from multiple fellowships, as we break down the big book line by line. In each 30-minute episode, we share our experience, strength, and hope in a real, raw, and practical roundtable discussion. So, if you are ready to learn and apply what you learn, tune in to Rico 12 Big Book Roundtable on your favorite podcast platform.
You know, the big book says that God will match calamity with serenity. And when you step back from it and you're no longer living in the calamity, you realize how incredibly difficult, in a pointless way, that you made, like for me, how I made life so incredibly difficult. It's so painful to see how, like, I call myself an ego, the Tasmanian devil, for those of you that might remember Looney Tunes. I will spin and take the cactus and whatever it is and spit it back out. And then when I stop and I'm tired, I'm like, right? Like that spree that they talk about in the big book. Oh, and then we get out and we're like, we're remorseful and guilty and shameful and whatever else the feelings are that flow through. And I have to pause and go, no, we're not sitting in shame and beating ourselves up because that's ego. It's the recognition that I bombed the country of my life. Now I get to be free and reduce and hopefully stop those behaviors. It's freeing, it's enlightening, it's joyful, it's blissful. That's more where I live today than ego. But it's also very painful. And that matching the serenity and the calamity is really important for me to remember. God matches that, but I have to go through that pain, including my medical issues, which stem from, in part, my own spiritual malady, right? Because it says when we straighten out spiritually, we straighten out mentally and physically. I have to go through this right now medically. And it doesn't matter what the outcome is, whether I have 1 day or 40 more years. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. The point is I have the right now and I have to clean out as much as I can, right? Otherwise, I carry it on my soul, like what a bird does to a car window. Always on my car.
Oh, love that. What a bird does in my car window. Okay. No, that's really good. So, Paulina, one of the thoughts I have here is that I really want to get out there. You know, we've talked about the spinning. We've talked about the Tasmanian devil. I love that imagery also. I'm going to bring myself into this. The reason why we now meet on Saturday is I got a new job. And this last week was my first time on this new job. And there is so much to learn. It's all new systems, new terminology, new verb, new everything. And I feel like I'm spinning all day, every day. In that type of situation, coach me up. Sponsor me right here. Tell me to stop spinning and open my eyes to some things that I need to look at in this situation.
Let's go. So my first question is, what do you take with you when you die, Justin?
Nothing physical.
So everything that you're going to be learning, is that what you're taking with you?
No.
So do you need to take it so seriously?
No. But I want to. Come on, Paulina, I want to.
And that is where, step 4, column 3, woohoo, ambition. What I want, my little own plans and designs really are irrelevant to the big picture. What you will learn on God's time. If you do it from ego, you know, you're distracted, you want it a certain way, you may not even absorb all the information that you need to know. So why sabotage yourself? Why not let God show you? And for all you know, maybe you're not supposed to learn some sort of code that you've been told 3 times because maybe you're supposed to ask someone and maybe that helps them. So I actually interfere with my plan. That is like I used to write my own instruction manual. I don't anymore. I interfere with the instruction manual in my own thoughts of perfectionism, which was also pretty challenging to let go of. It actually has nothing to do. So the things that look wrong or aren't speedy enough or whatever else, right? Totally different timeline on in spirit world. Like everything is laid out like a straight line. My brain tells me it's all crooked and warped and there's a million detours. No, there's not. I just don't like what I'm getting. Where are you now?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Paulina, this is great. This morning, before everything, almost everything, I was journaling and I was writing, I need to figure this out. I need to figure that out. I need to figure this out. And I caught myself about three figure it outs into it. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm spinning that. No, I didn't use that terminology. I love this terminology, but I'm just trying to manage things myself. And I have to figure out now how to step back and let God lead that. So this has been very helpful for me. Thank you for sharing that. Now, you used a phrase in your share that I'd like to dive just a little bit deeper on. You said, I'm bleeding empathy from ego. Please define that a little bit further. When you said that, I was like, that's powerful, but I can't see it clearly in my mind. Define that a little bit more. Give another example of what that looks like for you.
Sure. And sometimes I don't see it either. That's part of waking up. So bleeding empathy is thinking that you're being supportive to someone when you're not. So for example, right? One of the things that I used to do in controlling in attempting to control my husband, I shouldn't even say controlling because like what power do I have? Was like, let's say he would have a pizza for dinner, right? And I eat now pretty clean for a number of reasons, God aligned and because of my medical stuff. And I would be like, oh, honey, can I make you a salad? Okay, my brain will tell me that's helpful. And is it helpful for us to eat healthy salads? I would argue for a lot of us, it's probably healthy from what the medical community teaches. But when your husband is a grown middle-aged man telling you, I'm going to have pizza, what you're really doing, right? In that place of, oh, I feel bad for him. Like, what if he dies early? You're actually harming the relationship. There's many forms of it, right? So like people pleasing, putting yourself second when God tells you this is the time for you to speak or do, or speaking and doing when it's not your time, which is also something I'm working on, right? Is just being quiet. Really important to remember that true empathy has no agenda. I do not need anything from anyone to be okay. And the minute that I start clinging to anything, sugar, my husband, oh, why didn't this person text me back fast enough? Do they not want to talk anymore? Whatever it is, it's all irrelevant.
Yeah, no, this is good. And going into this a little bit further with the spinning, with the, stepping back from trying to figure things out and letting God lead, an anonymous question came in. This person says, I find myself getting confused about what's my voice and what's God's voice. And you went through the think and the four absolutes with that, but talk to us a little bit more how you discern your voice from the voice of higher power.
God will never put me in a position that will hurt someone else. God will never put me in a position where I'm going to be hurt from a place of what the plan is. So I've been there, right? I call that spiritual bypass when I'm confused. And what I've come to realize is if I'm not sitting with my thoughts and feelings and letting them go through, if I'm not able to feel into my body and feel that connection with God, because God is inside, I'm in my head. Because confusion, spirit world, right? I do a lot of like meditation and do my best to connect a lot with spirit world. Spirit world doesn't have confusion, doesn't have a timeline. It doesn't have like anger and fear and all this stuff that we run around on this earth with, hurting ourselves and each other. I actually love, as we were playing Jason Mraz before we started, he has a line in the song that says, put your weapons down that you use to hurt yourself and others. And confusion is one of my weapons. It keeps me spinning. And there's no reason to do that anymore. I still do it sometimes. So am I in this way of life? Am I living the steps? If I'm not eating, breathing, living the steps, I'm going to be confused.
Yeah. Thank you, Paulina. I think most people who are who come into the rooms of recovery that are in relationships are in a place where it is, it will be, or it has been in a place where that relationship is in danger of ending, whether it be divorce, whatever that looks like. And you talked about that. You were at the verge of divorce, possible divorce. And now you said you and your husband sing soul songs together. Um, how do you, I mean, okay, now I want to go into this from a slightly different angle before I get to that question. Let's say that my wife and I'm going into the rooms and my wife is saying, this is your problem, it's not mine. We're not on the same page in that. How does a relationship heal from a stance like that, where only one person is the problem and nobody and the other person isn't working their own recovery, their own relationship with God? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, and I can, I can see that in my own marriage, not as a judgment, but just we're in different places in right and how we choose to live a spiritual life. And it's not right or wrong, bad or good, it's just different. And so one of the things for me has been like in going back to step 4, we disregard the other person's inventory entirely. Where were we to blame? So anytime that I start saying, oh, this is about my husband, and I can't tell you how many times my sponsor was like, oh, really? We're back there? When I step back from that, and my husband's actually in the room and he's like nodding, like, yeah, which is hilarious because what a great, beautiful, how he brings me back to God every time, too, right? But yeah, when I do my own inventory, I need to look at my role. And where I was getting stuck because I was in my head and confused was I was thinking like, oh, it's going to look a certain way. Like we're definitely going to be like friends if we divorce, we're definitely going to be together and happy forever. We're happy now, but heck if I know. How do I know something doesn't change again? So it's about letting God unfold what like your wife's going to do, letting God unfold for you and you following. And wherever that ends up, it's still no different than if I'm at the store and I'm seeing like, I don't know, a sugary cupcake or like, pick something, a vegetable, which right now God's like, you stick with vegetables more. Like it's still the same thing. God, how do you want me to be? Is there an action, God, here that you need me to take, or do you need me to pause? So anytime that I start even asking a question about something else, that's also my time to come back and say, what am I questioning? Is it from in my head, or am I giving God the reins to tell me what to do? If I show up loving, that's the maximum service I can do in this life for my husband, for Rico, for recovery, for a stranger, right? That's the best I can do. How people respond to that, right? Could be some of it could be my doing from the past. Because as I mentioned earlier, the book talks about we put ourselves in these positions in the butterfly effect. So yeah, let me be patient as I'm cleaning out my wounds and that I'm standing in front of my husband who's been wounded by me for 15 years before recovery, which is a massive amount of time on this finite earth, right? And that stuff's going to keep pouring out, right? Just like I've had dental work done and there were infections. And after the infections, I was like, oh my God, my breath stinks so bad. And the dentist's like, no, that's normal because stuff's draining. It's still just an echoing. But if I get caught up in it as if it's real, I'm going to go right back to being in pre-recovery. So the idea is whatever it is, wherever this goes, God's in control. Some of these are consequences that are just going to keep flowing. My goal is to be grounded and present and let people know nothing impacts me anymore. And I got you. Now, access to that becomes a different story, right? Like I'm not going to give someone access the same as my husband, who maybe is constantly in a crisis and may need me just to show up for them more in the way of help me get out of my own spinning. Access is also determined by God. Access does not mean we deny love. It's the finite time, money, and energy we have. How does God want us to invest it in an infinite plan to make sure that we're getting the most out of it, meaning that I'm doing the maximum amount of service, right, to make this world a better place, whatever that means, even if that just means I go somewhere and I keep my mouth shut the whole time because I really have nothing useful to say on my own is what I've learned.
Awesome. Thank you, Paulina. I'm going to ask one, maybe two more questions here. We'll see what happens. Let's say that, I'm working my recovery. Things are moving along for me, and my spouse says, you know what, we're out. I'm out. Divorce is going to happen. And yet what I feel is the right thing, what I feel God is saying to me is, no, this needs to stay together. How do you deal with a situation like that? How do you go through something like that? This is basically from one of our anonymous attendees. They're going through a divorce, and hurt, and they said, I accept this as God's plan, but it doesn't really align with the answer to confusion. It feels confusing still. So what are your thoughts as this came in? Hey, Rico 12 Spearheads. If our recovery resources have helped you, please consider a donation. Your financial support, as well as your word of mouth support, keeps Rico 12 running and reaching the man who is still sick. Donate today at rico12.com/support or check the show notes for PayPal and Venmo links. Every contribution helps carry the message. Thanks for being a Rico 12 Spearhead.
To allow the confusion to exist there, no different than a tree outside. We don't have to poke at it. It's just something that the brain does. I would encourage, and not just this person who's going, and I honor the pain of this, really, I really do. Not just this person, but everyone, just to allow yourself to slow down and pause. That is the best and worst part of this program for me. And it's sometimes the hardest, most painful, but blissful thing. It's just to sit and stop running. Stop acting like a cat trying to climb a wall as if you're about to get a shot at the vet. Just to allow yourself to settle and just let those thoughts and feelings go through. You haven't seen the rest of the plan yet. And I know for me, because my finite brain compared to all of spirit world is so tiny, as smart as I think I am, as if I'm some big shot, sometimes like legit not. I'm just repeating literally everything that I've ever unlearned and what has been helpful in this recovery process. Like all we have to do is just be. And whatever is being stripped away of your wounds, if it's truly God's plan, it's always done for your greatest best. It may not feel like it, right? But sometimes the parent has to take the kid home from the playground when they're overstimulated and they're like fighting for a swing when it's like, dude, just wait in line. It's the same kind of thing. We all get our different versions of timeouts. Mine is my medical stuff, but this is all part of spiritual awakening. So to be patient and loving and trust and be careful about not thinking it's going to go any which way, but to do your best to be in love with you and this life and connect with other people that have their hearts open. And my other feedback that I heard from a wonderful podcast is take the hinges off the door of your heart. Anything that you hold, that you suppress in there is just going to keep biting you in ego. This is the time to let that flow out, let it all wash out so that you have more of a clean, beautiful heart for whatever is next of whoever shows up. Might be another romantic partner, a friend, boss, whoever. But it is painful, and I honor that pain.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Paulina. And it brings me to something that you said before we wrap this up. You said something like, it's like yelling at a blue wall that it's not blue enough and then getting resentful that it's not changing color itself. That just was so powerful to me, and thank you for sharing that. So before we wrap up, do you have any final words of wisdom to share with us?
If you make life simple, and if you live in pure love, your cravings are going to drop. This is what I see over and over again. So I'm saying this because these are interpretations from the big book too. Your cravings will stop, right? Because the obsession gets lifted. And it doesn't have to be, again, a substance. It could be anything, even to open your mouth for something that isn't appropriate. So live, love. Seriously, don't take things so seriously. Relax, enjoy, says the book. And remember that all the answers are inside of you. Your ruby red slippers, your big book, your God that is inside of you has got you 100%. Anything you get distracted by that is not pure love, is your spiritual death, but all you have to do is just pause and allow everything to flow through, just to be whole and loving. And that's really, there's no secret. That's the miracle of it all.
Thank you so much, Paulina, for an amazing RICO 12 speaker meeting. I've loved your share, your energy, and we've still got a lot of questions that have come in. So if anybody out there that we didn't get to your questions, because we're going to wrap up this meeting on the hour, you can jump in the WhatsApp group. I'll put the link as to how to do that here in the chat and ask those questions there. And we as a community can join in and answer those questions together. Paulina could join in if she would like and help answer those questions as they're for her, or were written for her initially. But we're happy to have you join in the communities there. So as we begin to wrap up, remember to come back next week, same time, next Saturday, same time with this new meeting time. Debbie S., who has spoken with us a few times previously, will be our guest speaker. She'll be speaking on sponsorship, and I'm super excited to have her back with her knowledge and her passion about the big book. And we are continuing to search for speakers for future Saturdays to fill more spots. So if you or someone you know has maybe not been available on a Friday, but have thought, hey, I'd really like to be a speaker, I've got something on my heart, well, maybe you're available on a Saturday now. So reach out to me at rico12pod@gmail.com. We'll line it up. So now we're going to close out of here with a prayer that Paulina will say for us as we get ready to launch out of here for the day.
All right. This is the 12-step prayer. Dear God, my spiritual awakening continues to unfold. The help I have received I shall pass on and give to others, both in and out of the fellowship. For this opportunity, I am grateful. I pray most humbly to continue walking day by day on the road of spiritual progress. I pray for the inner strength and wisdom to practice the principles of this way of life in all I do and say. I need you, my friends, and the program every hour of every day. This is a better way to live.
So thank you so much, Paulina. Remember, everybody, there is one that has all power. That one is God. May you find God now. Keep coming back. And when you do, come all the way in. Sit all the way down. Stay. Let's trudge this road of happy destiny together. Work it. You are worth it.
Standing still a moment, carving out this time, reflecting on the landscape of this life of mine. Peaks too high to conquer, streams too wide to cross, troughs too deep to walk through without incurring loss. Yet here I am, still standing tall, despite the rough terrain. One like me survived the storms and walked through wind and rain. Still standing, I will fight the good fight, still searching for glimmers of light, feet still on the ground. I can still be found, standing still.
My wings are torn and tattered, but I know I still can fly. I may not soar unfettered, I may not rise too high.
Recorded in the book of life and bind it with the seal.